This is a short reel.
Welcome to the short reel. This is Charles. Ryan is off at a secondhand popcorn sale this week, so it's just you and me. Tonight, we're going to explore some of the films that we'll be covering over the next year or so. We're going to talk about a podcast that is near and dear to our hearts. And then we're going to take a brief detour with something called the After Hours Drive-In Picture Show. So let's get going. On the first episode of the short reel, I explained the philosophy behind the all-night drive-in picture show, that we want to present movie discussions as a night at the drive-in, pure and simple. They could be big movies, they could be small movies. There are no firm boundaries as to what constitutes a quote-unquote drive-in movie. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at just a few of the double features you can expect from the all-night drive-in picture show in the not-too-distant future.
Coming soon to this drive-in theater.
First up, we have two bleak visions of a New York City that has become a 300-square-mile death trap in Escape from New York and The Warriors.
1988. The crime rate in the United States rises 400%. 1991. The United States Police Force is formed. 1997. New York City is a walled maximum security prison. John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Kurt Russell, Lee Van Cleef, Ernest Borgnine, Donald Pleasance, Isaac Hayes, Susan Hughley, Harry Dean Stanton as Brain, and Adrienne Barbeau as Maggie. John Carpenter's Escape from New York. The ultimate adventure of escape and survival.
Then,
these are the armies of the night.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
The Furies. The Boppers. The Hi-Hats. The Lizzies. The Turnbull ACs. The Gramercy Riffs.
Riffs! Yeah!
And these are the Warriors.
We know about the Warriors. They're a heavy outfit.
They're from Coney Island.
Warriors? You guys are the big dudes, huh?
Now they're in the Bronx.
We're going back.
27 miles behind enemy lines.
It's the only choice we got.
Between them and safety stand 20,000 cops and 100,000 sworn enemies.
I want them all. I want all the Warriors.
They've got one way out. They've got one chance. They've got one night. The Warriors.
Next up, we go on the run from the long arm of the law with the legend of Billie Jean and Bobby Joe and the Outlaw.
She was a fugitive to the police. A sensation to the media. and a symbol of courage to young people everywhere to fight for what's right.
Where is she?
Everywhere.
The Legend of Billie Jean, directed by Matthew Robbins, featuring Pat Benatar's hit song Invincible, rated PG-13. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Then,
they write ballads about girls like Bobby Joe, the loving kind. Loving a man so strong, nothing he does could ever be wrong. The pinball kid, who made a name for himself and then had to live up to it.
Come on, lover boy, move it.
Bobby Joe and the outlaw, they were country kids. All they wanted to do was hit the road. But the country rose up and smacked them in the face. Bobby Joe, who latched onto a whirlwind and couldn't let go.
the final double feature we are spotlighting tonight will take us into the mysterious mists of unsolved crimes with The Town That Dreaded Sundown and Zodiac.
Samuel P. Fuller, age 24. Linda Mae Jenkins, age 19. Brutally attacked March 3rd, 1946. Howard W. Turner, 29. Emma Lou Cook, 17. Bodies discovered in a wooded area on March 24th. Roy Allen, 17. Peggy Loomis, 15. Both found dead April 14th in Spring Lake Park. Floyd Reed, age 34. Murdered in his home on May 3rd. Mrs. Reed shot twice, but survived. This man's identity is unknown. He was believed to be between 30 and 40 years old. He wore a white hood and was known only as the Phantom Killer. For 4 months, he held an entire city in the icy grip of terror. Now, Charles B. Pierce brings this incredible, shocking, and true story to the screen in The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Then,
Dear Editor, this is the murderer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl on the 4th of July.
I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper.
He wants his code in the afternoon edition.
Ray Smith, don't you have a cartoon to finish?
The Zodiac Killer has come to San Francisco.
Another letter.
School children make nice targets.
Got any hard suspects?
About 90 an hour. I'm up to around 500.
You got 4 crime scenes, not a single usable print. You can't think of this case in normal police terms.
He's breaking the pattern.
Lana said you were a cartoonist.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing at the gun range?
I just want to help.
What are you, some kind of Boy Scout?
Eagle Scout, actually. First class. Well, I've been thinking.
Oh, God save us all.
There's no evidence, Robert.
What do you mean there's no evidence? You have him seen with the ciphers, the military boot prints, the bloody knife.
All circumstantial.
Why do you need to do this?
Because nobody else will.
Dave, you made a mistake! Get away from the window.
Paul, are you okay?
No.
Why'd you do it? You put your face out there for him to see.
Hello? Who is this?
Zodiac was my job. It's not yours.
He's still out there, Dave.
Killing is his compulsion. It drives him. It's in his blood.
Jeez. What? Squirrels.
This is the Zodiac speaking.
I've begun.
I can give you a lift to the service station.
Do you always go around helping people in the night?
I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Are you sure there's nobody else in the house?
So there you have it. Just a few of the spectacular star-studded double features we will be presenting in the coming year on the All-Night Drive-In Picture Show. And this is just a peek. The projection booth is overflowing with reels and reels of pure cinematic excitement. So join us every other week for a full drive-in experience. Every week when you tune in to the All Night Drive-In Picture Show, you hear this.
Tonight on the All Night Drive-In Picture Show.
And if you stayed for the end credits for those episodes, you know this shameless barker's name is Lane Hewitt. He has been a great friend of ours for nigh on 2 decades now, and I feel it is my duty as a co-projectionist and assistant talent liaison for the All Night Drive-In Picture Show to let you know about Lane's solo podcast, The Melody Motel. Every episode of The Melody Motel is a musical odyssey that is sometimes fueled by a theme and sometimes simply a collection of songs woven together so beautifully that you might want to take up motel living for the rest of your days. And as a bonus, you get to hear the dulcet tones of Mr. Hewitt in their natural habitat, in his position as proprietor of the motel and the curator of its vast, eclectic musical library. The Melody Motel, where the beds are always comfortable, the radio is always set to your favorite station, and the towels are mostly clean. Look for it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcatcher. Finally tonight, I'd like to give you a glimpse of what it's like here at the drive-in after hours. After Stubbs has switched off the sign and locked up the gate, and Lucy has closed down the snack bar. It can get quiet out here after that last car has exited the lot. And some nights, I just can't wait for the quiet. To shut out all the noise of the projectors and the popcorn popper and the arcade machines and the car engines. I just want to sit here and exist, here in my little cinder block apartment out behind the projection booth. But there are some nights, who am I kidding? There are many nights that I need to run just one more movie on our gigantic screen for an audience of 1 or 2. It's usually something really old or obscure that no one would want to see but me. But sometimes it might be a brand new movie that I just want to see spread across the massive screen we have out here. There's no in-depth play-by-play, and we probably don't even call out specific clips. When it's this late, you and we can just watch a movie like this and talk about the general feeling we get from it, the elements that strike us as we watch it, maybe the aspects of ourselves that we explore as we engage with it. And we will probably disagree. You will see something in it that I don't, and vice versa. And that's okay. Because we don't stay up this late to establish some propped-up consensus about the supposed merits of a movie. We just want to find some little something that we can carry home and keep after seeing a film in a mostly empty drive-in in the darkest stretch of night. So, tonight, join me as we talk briefly about The Report.
After 9/11, everyone was scared. Scared it might happen again.
Obvious terrorist attack.
It was my second day of grad school. Next day, I changed all my classes to national security.
Morning, Dan.
Morning, Senator.
Have you seen the story today in the New York Times?
Evidently, the CIA destroyed tapes of interrogations of Al-Qaeda detainees.
I want to find out what was on the tapes and why they were destroyed.
No paper.
Paper is a way of getting people in trouble at our place.
At our place, paper is how we keep track of laws. Last night I found this. He's detainee number 24. Have you guys used this thing before?
No, we watched the video.
They waterboarded him 183 times. Everything they got from him was either a lie or something they already had.
If it works, why do you need to do it 183 times?
Maybe when the report comes out, people will finally see that.
I vehemently disagree with the narrative here.
The United States does not torture.
Dan, you need to be careful here.
They can't destroy the documents. They can go after the next best thing, you.
They claim they saved lives, but what they really did was make it impossible to prosecute a mass murderer, because if what we did to him ever came out in a court of law, the case is over. The guy planned 9/11.
We will not allow this to be covered up.
The intent is to gain intel, save American lives.
History is written by the victors.
We need to change our approach.
How is that even ethical?
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Democracy is messy.
If the Times had your report, we would print it tomorrow.
No. If it's going to come out, it's going to come out the right way.
Sometimes hosting a podcast takes courage. And sometimes that courage is blind. I mean, if I had known how much work it actually takes to put this show together, would I have done it anyway? Would I have been brave enough to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to embark on something that will take over my life? I honestly don't know. There is another brand of courage necessary to host a podcast like the All Night Drive-In Picture Show, though, that I don't think we could have planned for, even if we were warned of it ahead of time. And that's the courage to look in the mirror and re-examine how we saw these movies as children or teens or young adults, and check those viewings against who we are right now and where our society is right now. It's sobering to watch a movie I enjoyed as a child or as a teenager and see so many horrifying things in it that I, and many of us, just let slide. Even in the dumbest of comedies from the 70s and 80s, it's nothing to encounter any manner of discrimination that's expressed in a myriad of jaw-dropping ways. And the pat response to these types of events in older movies is just to say, well, it was a different time. We hear that frequently in a lot of different places nowadays, don't we? It was a different time. As if that phrase could actually replace an apology and wipe away any responsibility to recognize the injustice and call it out. I mean, being a racist is just as wrong in 1969 or 1979 as being a racist in 2019 is, right? Being sexist? It's the same. Being discriminatory about gender identity and sexual orientation? It's the same. Just because some of us, or even most of us, didn't recognize those actions as wrong back then, that doesn't mean that they weren't wrong. It just means that we weren't willing to look in the mirror ourselves, and no one else was willing or in a position to hold it up for us. At its core, the report is about that kind of courage. The film is based on the true story of Daniel Jones, played by Adam Driver, and his long journey writing a report for the Senate Intelligence Committee documenting the CIA's torture program. This document topped out at 6,700 pages with 38,000 footnotes and was based on research that covered some 6.3 million documents. And you and I will likely never see it. Not that we would necessarily read it anyway, right? I mean, to paraphrase John Hamm's character, Dennis McDonough, the Bible told the history of mankind in fewer pages. But even if we did have the time to read it, would we? Are we brave enough to really want to know what our figurative reflection would look like in that report? For nearly the last half of this film, Daniel Jones is a man trying to hold a mirror up to the CIA and trying to force that agency, as well as the U.S. Congress and 2 White Houses, to examine the reflection. The lengths that nearly all of those institutions go to avoid seeing the objectively heinous atrocities that the CIA committed in the wake of 9/11 are astounding, even when those atrocities yielded 0 results. And bypassing that reflection, the reflection of this torture that was committed in our name, for many of the characters in the movie, means redefining or even weaponizing the very concept of courage. In nearly every single scene of this film, there is someone either comparing or refusing to compare his or her own morals against the events unfolding in that scene. And it's typically the people on the lower rungs of the ladder who actually reflect on who they are becoming by participating in the torture and voice opposition to it. By contrast, the government institutions that those people work for, especially the CIA, have a hard time mustering the courage to admit to wrongdoing of any sort, let alone truly addressing the transgressions that were done both in the name of the agency and in the name of our country. And the justifications for those terrible acts is based in fear. Fear that there would be another attack. Fear that the CIA would be bested by the FBI or some other agency. Fear of admitting that the ineffectiveness of these torturous policies was known long before the program even started. Adam Driver is pitch perfect as a man who can barely contain the emotions he's been ordered to suppress, as he learns more and more horrifying information about the injustices carried out in our name. And even though his emotions are fueled by his sense of justice, he's been ordered to conceal those emotions because they're frowned upon by the system he's forced to work within. An emotional man is not as objective. His information will not be taken seriously. His conclusions will be questioned. And he is brave enough to try and work within the system he so believes in, even if that system is actually rigged against him, and even if his emotions ultimately don't matter as much as the profound lack of courage of those both opposite and above him. Annette Bening is excellent as Senator Dianne Feinstein, a politician who talks to Daniel about taking his strong pills, but sometimes lacks the bravery to take her own advice. Just the information that is alluded to in the report could fill a limited series. But I don't think many of us could sit still and look in the mirror for that long. The report is now streaming on Amazon Prime. Next week, bring your hats and mittens and we'll serve up the cookies and cocoa as we watch two tales of madness unfold during the most wonderful time of the year in the original Black Christmas and Christmas Evil. Don't forget to check your chimney and attic before leaving the house. That's it for the short reel this week. You can connect with us by following us on social media at All Night Drive-In on Twitter and Instagram, by searching the All Night Drive-In Picture Show on Facebook, and by emailing us at allnightdriveinpictureshow@gmail.com. Please subscribe to and rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher if possible. And more importantly, tell your friends. Sneaking your friends into the show in the trunk is definitely allowed at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. I mean, Stubbs probably won't like it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So we'll see you next week on the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. Thanks for listening.
The Short Reel is edited and produced by Markham Harvey. Our theme song is by Burning Mirror and edited by The Night Watch. I'm your announcer, Lila Pseudonym. This has been a Clown Business Coalition production. Thank you and good night.